I've heard that designers are being replaced by AI. So basically, I'm branching out into this podcasting thing a little bit in case the design thing doesn't work out. Hello, and welcome to the second episode of the DERESTRICTED podcast. This week's guest is Cesar Rojo, who is the founder and CEO of UNNO bikes and Cero Design in Barcelona. I hope you enjoy the show. You're a racer, you're an engineer, you're an entrepreneur, you're the founder and CEO of UNNO bikes and Cero Design. Why are you so into bikes? Like, what's so special about bikes?
I started racing in bikes when I was 14, 13. But I've been riding bikes my entire life. Like always, I like bicycles and motorcycles. I like both. At some point, I decided to compete. Or my parents always wanted me to do some sport or to be, I guess, distracted and not spend too much time at home. So when I was like,
Why not soccer?
well, they tried tennis first. I didn't like it. And then I don't know. I like the motorcycles, but my parents didn't like motorcycles. I liked like GP racing and so on. I was still too like a kid when I wanted to start on this, but didn't like the idea. And I went to spend a summer in the UK. Typical. I mean, in Spain was really typical that send the kids for like 2 months into someone else's house, and then the person will come over. So this exchange in summer when you're young
To learn English.
Yeah, so I went to the UK and I saw actually the very first, actually it was not even called Dirt magazine. It was like previous to that, it was like a yearly magazine they did with kind of like the best pictures or something like that. And I got really excited about it. Actually, I got the subscription to Dirt. So I had the number one, number two, and all thanks to Dirt when it came after that, because that was kind of the step before releasing Dirt magazine. So I really got into it and then started racing, and then been always involved with it, because like when I stopped racing, then we started doing some work for Mondraker, and then at some point started my own company with that, and then at some point decided to start my own brand, and here we are.
It's a bit cliche to quote Steve Jobs, but the guy is such a leading thinker, and he, like, one of his ideas was that basically the people who create the things that change the industry, they're both the thinker and the doer in one person. So
Right.
a lot of people have the ideas and other people do the things, but like he thinks that the people who really change the world are the ones who can think and do together as one person. And in many ways, you're the manifestation of this, in that you not
Yes.
only have ideas for bikes, but you also know how to design, engineer, even do the layup of the carbon, and you can also test the products to see, you can kind of do the R&D as well. So my question is, like, what advantage does this combination of knowing and doing give to UNNO?
I mean, I think Uno and also all what we've done in the past, and we keep doing for other brands. But I think you know it's a kind of like a, I don't know if this word applies in English, but in Spanish we have like it's a double side sword. It can go really good and really bad.
Double-edged sword. Yeah,
Yeah.
we have the same
So
expression. Yeah.
so in the way, I think if you're critical enough, it's really good. If you're critical with yourself, because like sometimes you think what you're doing is the best, and then you try other things and think the others are not as good, and mine is perfect. So I think in any way you should be very critical with what you're doing, but of course for me it has helped me a lot to be able to ride, to be always involved riding bikes, different types of bikes, because and love the product itself and always challenge how you can do it better. So it's kind of a combination of things, and but the most important for me, it's always been very critical, to be critical with it, and to try like, okay, what can I do to improve this, or why people talk so highly about that bike that someone else has done it, and what are they doing different, and try to understand things. But I think
How do you balance that when you work, for example, for like within Cero Design, you work for other brands where you're kind of more just asked to fulfill a particular role, like engineering or whatever it may be, the kinematics. So how do you balance that? Like when you have so much know-how around, like all the different areas, how does it like? How do you feel when you just have to, work on one
I
different
think they
area?
always add, and they come to us because we add some value, and this depends. Sometimes it's an engineering value because they want to reduce cost or make better quality, or sometimes it's because they want to do stuff in the geometry, in the kinematics. So there's always different challenges, and it's just a matter of finding what's the challenge there. But there's always, you can always make a challenge out of it, and you can always push the client to do a bit more, and hey, why you don't do this way or that way, or why you don't try to I don't know, change a little bit this, or be, I won't say more extreme, but just push a bit more with the geometry. In a way, it's what we did with Mondraker when we started. I think that's the perfect example, because when we started working with Mondraker, it was someone else's brand that we were just suggesting things, but they were listening and they were open to it. So I think it also changes on the philosophy of the brand as well. But yeah.
So you think it's possible to do, like, because in most big organizations, the different departments are kind of segmented in a way that, like in a smaller company, like with Uno, you have everything, everybody kind of knows what everybody's doing. But so how do you achieve this same like level of integration at scale? Because obviously, it's sustainable to a certain level, but if you want to, if you really want to grow the business, it's inevitable that it becomes more fragmented. So how have you seen companies operate and actually bring these different divisions together?
Yeah,
Successfully?
it's clear that the bigger the company, it's harder to make changes, because there's more departments in place, there's more people involved, and they tend to be more conservative. So it's obvious that the big advantage of UNO, that it's as a brand, it's tiny. Even if Cero, that is kind of like, what are we using for R&D? It's really big.
That's actually the first time I've ever heard a Spaniard say Cero. I always say Cero, but it's Cero. It's like the soft.
Yeah, but yeah, but with the fact that UNO is smaller, and then we don't have any requirements, you can do anything. And it's a bit what we tried with UNO, to just try new things that maybe we end up using with other clients in the end. But to me, with UNO, was to do something really to the extreme, like to make something that other brands will be a bit afraid to do, like a polarizing design, like I think we did, and things like this. And in the end, the bike has nothing, let's say, extraordinary, super different in terms of geometry or anything. We just try to keep the best things that we could find out and put them on together with a different package. But UNO, for instance, we take almost triple the time to develop an UNO bike than another bike. We keep redoing the design, and we keep working and finding things different, and we're not happy, and then we restart again, and then like we switch the motor. We started with Shimano, we moved to Bosch at some point. So
they come out when they're ready. Then you're not kind of following some timeline.
Yes, now it was easier because we didn't have a timeline for the new bikes. That now eventually that we're gonna come with the new versions of the bikes, we have a timeline. But for you to have an idea, we released our Myth bike, the e-bike, around 6 months ago. A month ago, we already started working on the new version of the bike, and it's due in 4 years from now. Of course, the last year it's always really slow with production and everything, so we don't want to make that mistake again. And we also tested a lot. And this is one of the biggest differences I see with some other brands, and it's the advantage maybe of having such kind of advanced design or different design, that even if you test for long or have a longer period of development, when the bike comes out, it doesn't look outdated.
When you separate the strategy, the thinking, and the planning from the design engineering they're doing, do you think you can still create exceptional products? And if so, how?
Yeah, I think so, but I think it depends a lot on the inputs you get. I think like the bike still, compared to when we do motorcycle. In a motorcycle, there's a lot of development. Like there's so many parts. There's so many carryover parts. Even in bicycle, we can call carryover to everything from components of the bike. But in terms of frame and what creates the bike different from others, because all the rest, it's what everyone can buy. That gets new every time. So the good thing of a bike is you can do a completely new product every time that you do a product, compared to a motorcycle that you're not so open, because the motors carry over, the chassis carry over, the suspension, this, and you end up changing a bit the plastics, but not that much, because still the package is the same. Here, the new motor is smaller, the battery is bigger. So every new bike is completely different. So the fact that it's not compared to other industries, there's not that many people involved, even if there's a lot on bigger brands compared to other products, there's no one. If you look at a motorcycle, there's maybe like 50 or 60 or 70 guys involved in the development at some point, between the designers, the marketing guys, the whatever. Here, it's a smaller team, so it's easier to, if the team or the customer or the brand it's willing to innovate, it's easier to convince them and to try things and so on. So
A product often changes, like as you start working on it. You might have an idea at the beginning, and as you start working on it, like the product changes and grows through the development of it as you get into the details.
yeah.
Like you also find that there are trade-offs that you have to make. What trade-offs did you have to make with the Uno Myth as you were working on it?
I mean, you always make some. We didn't try to make too many, but some trade-off that I could think of, it's when we switched to Bosch. Maybe we increased a little bit the package from what Shimano was offering, but
You mean you increase the weight?
no, and the package, like how
The
the
volume.
Shimano, it's a bit smaller, has a bit of less belly. Weight wise, it was not huge, but it added up a little bit because a bit heavier, the Bosch. But then you added much more power. You added more connectivity. So for us, it added other things that they're much better, a bit more efficient. So with the same amount of battery, you get a bit more range. It's a bit more powerful, or quite a lot more powerful. That's for me was one of the biggest differences. You could feel the big difference in power between Shimano and Bosch. So so I think we did some trade-offs. You know, the remote from Bosch is a bit bulky when you especially have the screen. Um, so there's always trade-offs in everything, and it's the same when you're doing the frame. Like we put a little bit extra weight on the frame to have this design, and we were aware of it, but we did other solutions that make the bike lighter. So in the end, we have one of the lightest, if not the lightest Bosch bike out there, without going crazy with lightweight components. But we still sacrifice some weight because we wanted to have some design. So there's always trade-offs, and I can go on and go on. So
How important do you think weight is for e-bikes?
I think it's not. I mean, it's always important, but depends whether you're talking about when you consider it important. For me, half a kilo in an e-bike is not important. 2 kilos in an e-bike starts to be important. So I think there's a point where, yeah, and what's the trade-off? Because you see it, some brands that, yeah, I have a 21 or 20 kilo e-bike, and it's like thin tires, like you cannot go anywhere with that, or like enduro. You know, like for me, an e-bike it's an enduro bike because it has the capability to do what an enduro bike. So for me, a cross country e-bike personally makes not so much sense because the whole point of cross country is to climb fast. But on an e-bike, it's 5 kilos climbing on an e-bike. The difference is tiny versus how much does when it's not an e-bike. And in a non-e-bike, I think in a normal bike or in a bike, it makes a lot of sense to still have cross-country bikes. I still enjoy riding a cross-country bike. I don't enjoy riding an enduro bike because the difference is like 10 to 12 kilometers per hour average on an enduro bike versus like 15, 16 on the cross-country that I can do. So the cross-country is, for me, still fun to ride, and especially with more aggressive geometries, you can still ride down pretty well.
What do you ride more often, e-bikes or non-e-bikes?
No, e-bike for sure. Like I've been a big fan of e-bike since a while. I think it's for me it's a different sport. E-bike it's
As a percentage of your riding time, what is it at? I actually follow you on Strava, so I have an idea. But
it's 99.
unless you're cheating, unless you're sandbagging the climbs with
No,
your
it's
e-bike.
it's 99 now. Not 99, but 95. I would say we're developing our cross country bike, so I'm testing it when we need to do something. So every time we need to test, especially when we had the first bikes, I was riding maybe every week on the cross country. But then my go-to it's the e-bike. But this has been for the last 4 years already. I would say easily. I mostly ride e-bike. It's just I do the same exercise. and I just do more.
It's funny when I interviewed Sam a few years ago, actually quite a lot of years ago now. It was about 5-6 years ago. He said, like at the time, nobody was like talking about e-bikes, and none of the pros were like showing that they were riding e-bikes. And he was like one of the first
Yeah.
guys. I remember like the controversy on Ping Bike, and he just said, "Look, I know a lot of people are riding e-bikes all the time. They're just like not talking about it yet. So wait a few years, and then everybody's going to be out saying they're on the e-bike."
Yeah. No, for me the eye opener was like maybe already like 8 years ago or something like this. I tried the first e-bike and I did a test loop with the e-bike and a normal bike, and my heart rate in average was higher on the e-bike. And of course, the climbs are shorter. It's different for me. The e-bike is the closest thing to a road cycling. It's similar style where your legs don't hurt as much as on the mountain bike, because on the mountain bike, you, especially where I live, like for me where I live, 25 kilometers equals 1,000 vertical meters,
Oh
more or
wow!
less. So it's on the steep side. So of course, I would live in a flatter place. I probably the e-bike wouldn't make such a big difference if I would live, I don't know, in the Netherlands or something like that, where you will be hitting 25 all the time. It will make it very boring on the e-bike and hard to make sport. Or you will be all the time in eco. But I'm always in EMTB or on.
Is it just straight up, straight down by you?
Yeah, yeah. It's up and down, and the thing is, the climbs are shorter on the e-bike, but for me, it's kind of like a sprint up. Like I always go like flat out. Like my average heart rate on the e-bike is always over 145, 150 on average on my rides. I tend to don't have too much time, so I do like 1 hour, and I try to ride every day.
High intensity.
But it's always been like so. For me, the discussion like an e-bike, you do sport, you don't do sport. I think that's silly. It's different, of course, but for me, the amount of fun could compensate that. Maybe you get your legs maybe a bit stronger on the e-bike. Maybe you don't get your legs so strong, so much power on your legs because you have the help of the motor. A different is the heart. So we're talking two different things. So maybe if you are a pro training on e-bike to race downhill, you might need to compensate more with gym, like do a little bit more in the.
But there's also a lot of research the last years about the benefits of just training in zone 2. So like, really trying to keep your heart rate like pretty low, like not letting it get too high. And you should actually I think 70% of your training should actually be done in zone 2.
Yeah,
because that builds your base fitness level.
No, I know. Like every time I go with the Garmin, you say I'm overtrained and I need to take. I just enjoy going that way. Like Garmin complains every day. They say like my training hasn't been productive. Like this is what.
Do you listen to it when it says do that or do that?
No. The thing is, I enjoy going quick up, so I actually enjoy it, and so I'm not really doing it. But what I was saying is that what I would think that you could lack a bit with the e-bike is the strength on the legs that you would need.
Yeah, that's true.
Compensate a bit more is what I feel.
But you can use it for that base training as well. Like if you so wish, you can just whack it in turbo and just try to keep your heart rate down and chill.
So for me, the train, what I do, it's fine, and I don't need to compensate. But I always tell to everyone, e-bike is a different sport. You need to think a different story in terms like, okay, there's road cycling, there's mountain bike, and there's e-biking. And there's 3 bicycle sports, but they're different between of them. And you actually experience different things, because on the e-bike, what you experience is a higher heart rate with less painful, sore legs after the ride, but feeling probably more tired than actually your body seems to be. So more like road cycling. And then you get to experience longer rides in the same time. So
it's as different as hard enduro to motocross, for example, or motocross to rally. Like they're all you think like from that like superficially you might think they're the same, especially like motocross and enduro, because they're similar looking bikes, but like once you've tried and done both for a bit, they're so different.
Completely. So that's why I think it's a different sport, but it's my favorite of all the 3. Like the e-bike
is it?
It's so much fun.
Amazing. I totally agree with you. Back to the product. What are your thoughts about removable batteries versus non-removable?
I mean, actually, we don't have a removable battery. So, I mean, I'm pretty sure there might be a target for it for removable batteries, but now with and probably with the small motors, I could see it more, even if those bikes tend to go in the direction of not being removable because you want to try to keep it as light as possible. But now with 750 watt hour batteries, I do, like I said, I do 25 kilometers, 1,000 vertical, average speed I'm doing 23, something like that, 24. Sometimes I'm really pushing, like I push like the other day with even if I'm not in very good shape, I did 237 watt hour
Do you just keep it
average
in
power.
turbo the whole time? Are you full turbo the whole
Yeah,
time?
EMTV, because I like the
Yeah,
fact
top
that
mode.
because EMTV is like when you're pushing
Okay.
hard with your legs, it's the same as turbo. Like I can switch to turbo.
Mm.
It's just the EMTV. The moment that you start pushing a bit put less power on the legs, you can see how the whole thing slows, so it keeps you on your toes. But it's like almost 240 watts of average my power. That it's pretty high during 1 hour.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, in 1 hour, I come back home and I'm usually like 51, 52% with 1,000 vertical meters. And so for what I do for riding, for me, I see it hard. And of course, if someone wants to do on turbo and it's super heavy and the guy wants to do, I don't know, 3,000, 4,000 vertical meters, he might need it. But we were with some friends before Dakar in a bike park, and it's a small bike park where you do lifts with a car. And a friend and I went on the e-bikes, and the rest and some other guys went on a normal bike and on the lift. We did double the runs in the morning, like they did 6 and we did 12, and
Yeah.
we still like we drained the whole battery. But at the end of the day, like I see very few cases where I think you need a second battery with how efficient, for instance, the Bosch is. Like I tried once to because then there's the different modes. I think it depends. Like if you're a person that wants to turbo and heavy and want to do 60 kilometers every ride, then you need a second battery. But I don't even know. You take it with you. I think I would never take a battery with me because I think if I crash with the battery in my back, I think that's super scary. Because I
Yeah.
heard already like scary stories of people breaking the back just because they had a pump on their backpack, on their camelback,
Mm.
and things like that. So I will be a bit scared to carry a battery with me. I will never carry it.
Not to
So
mention the balance is all messed up as well.
yeah. So, but first, it's a bit the logistics of it. But I can imagine if you're in a park or something like this that you could take advantage of it. But on normal riding, I hardly see. Like I tried with a friend to finish the bikes in eco, and after I think it was 60 something kilometers, 3,200 vertical, like it was still like 12 or 15% left, and it's like we give up, like we destroyed, let's go home. I mean, it's clear that was eco, and eco, it's a point where it starts to be slow. It's still faster than a normal bike, but like how far and how much you need it. Like we go into
It's not
plus.
much fun either. Once you go
No,
down to eco, you're just
yeah,
like, oh no.
I have now the eco tuned up, but still, like I get. I mean, I haven't done more than 50 kilometers on the e-bike, and still, okay, I'm not too heavy. I'm 70 kilos, so I'm maybe not the perfect example because it's an advantage on an e-bike. It's a clear advantage for the range, the weight.
Yeah.
But I don't see it that critical if you're not a guy that wants to do 60, 70 kilometers, on your rides. Of course, that guy will need either a range extender or a second battery, but for most people, and when you start talking now to customers and whatever, they're completely fine. And you start figuring out that most people never go past tour. Like they're like, no, I do eco, I do this, and I come back and I still have 80% of the battery. And it's like, okay, why you want 750 if you're just using that? So
That doesn't make sense.
so for me, I don't see the advantage, but I could see some people might need it, and but there's other options in the market. We went to fixed battery because weight saving, because we think with how much you can get out of these big batteries nowadays, and the percentage of people that would really buy a second battery is really small. Also, I could see sometimes the advantage that or you hear like, yeah, I take it off for charging because I don't have charging on my garage. But we sell 10,000 euro bike. I could imagine the guy where he stores the bike some kind of plug.
They have a garage, yeah.
So with some
Yeah.
kind of plug. So I,
Do you ever
I
get any pushback from customers? Like, did any customer ever say, like, was it ever a factor when they were buying the bike that they said to you, can I take it out?
I mean, honestly, I don't know because I'm not in those kind of talks, but I've never heard a complaint from our sales team like, hey, we having issues here. I mean, I'm pretty sure some people might have decided not to buy it because of it. I'm not aware of it, but I'm sure it would have happened that someone wanted a bike that you could exchange the battery. Um, but I've talked a couple of times with a friend that has a shop, and he has never sold a second battery. Has replaced batteries, has sold bigger batteries because some brands have done upgrades where you could put now a bigger battery because they released the 625 or the 750, and then you can go from your 500 to a bigger one. So some guys have done this upgrade, but in his case, he hasn't sold like a second battery. Like what he told me on the other hand, that he's sold bikes or had he had some bikes that came with 900 watt hour in the past, and he said, yeah, some people were choosing that bike even if the brand was not so known and maybe not the same quality or not one of the big brands of motors, just because of the bigger battery. But I think now I think it's changing. But I'm pretty sure there's clients for it.
Switching gears a bit. So, starting a business is pretty intimidating. You've started a couple of businesses. How do you get over the fear of starting a business? Like, how do you overcome your doubts before you start it?
I think I'm a person that doesn't. I mean, I'm not gonna say doesn't think too much in the sense of being a bit crazy and like, but not. With that, when I make my mind, I just go for it. So I think from Cero, that was the first one. It came a bit like out of nowhere. Like I've never planned on starting my own business. Like never. I never thought like I will own a business one day. I had kind of pretty clear that I wanted more to be on freelancing, and that's what I did when I finished my studies. I did a couple 6-month jobs in a couple companies. But then I thought, like, no, what I want is to do freelance work, have my own schedules and all this, and then started. And then I got in touch with someone at Mondraker. We started doing things, and eventually, my designing skills are really bad. So I decided I needed a designer to help me to make the bikes better. So I talked to Mondraker. Hey, what do you think if we hire? I hired a designer, and I'm pretty sure the bikes will get better. We will do cooler shades and this and that, and it's going to benefit you on the long term. So I convinced them. Um,
So it happened organically.
Yeah, I decided to hire a designer. Then some of the project came on the side, and then like from Trials Bike, from Cero Design came, and then I hired another person, and then yeah, when we were 3 persons in my dining table at home, we decided, okay, maybe we need the studio, and then the studio happened, and then I started actually the company at that point. And it was really organic, and it has been growing since then to like 100 people that we are now 13 years later. So it was pretty.
It's good. It reminds me of a story. Like when I was at Alpine Stars, we made an ad for like a new kids boot, and the ad was said all great journeys start with one small step.
Yeah.
I think it's an old Chinese proverb, and
Yeah.
it's kind of a lot of people are just scared of taking that first step. They want to see all the way to the finish line, but actually, you just have to take the first step, and just then the next one, then the next one.
Yeah, completely. I think is that, and to me, something that I always give a big thought. And then when someone asks, like, okay, I'm going to start a business, or I'm thinking on this and that, and sometimes someone asks you, for me, has always been clear. I never made a decision for the money. So I never started my business because I wanted to make more money. In the end, as a result of owning a business and running it the right way, and a business should do money to survive, it is clear. But I never made a decision to start it, or during decisions that you make through the years in the business based on money. I always made the decisions like we want to do this better. We want to have calculation engineers, or we want to have engineers specialized in plastic. And this is because we wanted to increase our level. And that brought more customers, brought better quality designs, brought higher rates that we could charge the customers because we had more knowledge. We're bringing more to the table. So it all, I always made the decision the same way. And with Uno has been always the same. Of course, I'm always really careful with numbers. I'm always have a really detailed plan of the business, where our expensive costs and everything. And I'm always very careful with it and planning ahead. But I think that's what has been kind of key. So I think that made it not so scary to start, because it's like, okay, if we keep these tiny steps, like you said, keep them, we grow steady.
What has been the hardest part about running a studio?
I mean, the hardest part is always dealing with the amount of persons you have, and there's always and the customers. I mean, is the personal thing is always the most difficult, because it's the relationships that sometimes could not be based on it works or it doesn't work. Like, like, okay, there's the I don't know, this axle go into the bearing, yes or no? No, because the tolerance is wrong. Whatever, solution is easy. The other one is based on other things. So, and to understand what people need to be happy, and all this. So there's always challenge, and it's a mix of challenges. I would say it's not the easiest one, but of course, managing the people when the company grows is the hardest. When it's five guys, it's kind of like easy, because you're like pretty much friends and you talk all the time, and it's very easy. The communication is clear. But now that we 100 persons, it's completely different. I cannot go talk to all the engineers, because first they have different levels in the organization that they're telling something. If I go there and talk to the engineer and say something, I'm going through other persons that are telling them what to do. So everything becomes a bit slower. Sometimes it gets a bit more frustrating, because the bigger you grow, the less I go into the details, and the less I can know about the small things that it's what started in the first place. So these are what you lose when you keep growing.
Well, what are the most important lessons you've learned as a CEO?
What are the most important lessons? I mean, I'm still learning a lot. I mean, I've learned and depends, on the bicycle I'm learning. So not by making bicycles, because this I think I will learn, but on Uno, what I'm learning the most is about the sales side of it. It's how important the sales side of it is. Even if your product is not good, if you have a huge and good sales team, they will sell some. That doesn't mean that in 2 3 years then you won't be able to sell it anymore because you're selling crap. But I was surprised how important it is, independent of how good your product is and how much your customers like it in the end. You need a good sales team. So it's hard to pick one. It's everything has had something that I learned a lot. And
How have you evolved as a leader over the years? I mean, you say you're constantly learning, but like, how do you feel? Yeah, how have you improved?
I
Are
mean,
there some things you used to do that didn't really serve you, and you've kind of like
yeah, this
removed
is
those
one of the
behaviors?
things. Like I used to not mind at all doing all the shitty things that people don't want to do. Until maybe I don't know 4 years ago, I was still installing software in some computers and doing some stuff like that. Or when the floor was dirty or something dropped something, I was cleaning it or grabbing it. And there's a point where and this is also what I'm trying to transmit, because the organization is growing, and this same learning that I did, to like, hey, there's things that you shouldn't be doing. I know that sometimes feel bad to tell someone not clean the floor, but like, hey, uh, get me this or do that or organize that, when I could do it as well. But there's a point where if everyone is trying to do that, they cannot do their really important tasks. So it's kind of like um,
Delegating.
delegating. But I think the important stuff I never had issues delegating, like organization of projects, this and that. But it's more like the tiny stuff, like I don't know, I need to plane tickets to go to somewhere, and I will start looking at the plane tickets because I feel bad that someone is looking for my plane tickets for a meeting in somewhere. To like, but those are the things that you realize that at the end of the day they're taking a lot of time from you, or helping, in tiny things. Now I try more to, instead of giving a solution when they ask for a problem, or when they show me a design or whatever, I'm trying more like telling them how they can think to solve that, and I'm just telling them to like come back. In a way, it's like giving some ideas to like think more and then send me fix them by themselves. So they become more independent, and this is what we've been really focusing the last year and a half on, making team leaders, project managers, even engineers more independent, to have more domain and control of their task. And this is one of the biggest things that are making a huge difference when people start, um, like taking more, not care, but like having more responsibility on the plate, and like showing them how to take that responsibility. And this has been really really hard, because in four in 4 years we went from 40 persons to 100. So it's been a big growth in organization. You need to give responsibility to a person, that because we try to promote as much as possible from the company. So it's guys that you need to help to go into the next stage. It's easier when you grab a person that has done it before, but that takes an extra strain on you, because you need to teach that person to the new responsibility, to the new leading role. And that, because our growth has been quite big, that has made it pretty hard for us, and a bit sometimes management a bit like tiring to be really telling everyone how to do it.
There's a Navy SEAL called Jocko Willis, and he wrote a really interesting book about kind of some of the lessons from being a Navy SEAL that can be applied to business. And one of the ones that he says is about like decentralized control. And so basically everybody should be aware of what the mission is, but then you let the independent teams like make their own decisions to optimize around the particular situation which they're faced on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I mean, is something that by hitting my head against the wall, I've somehow find out. Um,
I'll send you a link to the book after you can, you'll be interested in that as a
yeah,
topic
like 2 weeks
then.
ago. Yeah. Cool, like,
So you just started the Primal Uno project, which is a team with 3 riders in the UCI Downhill World Cup. Is it possible to make money back in bike sales from a race team, or do the benefits manifest in other ways?
I think not. I think depends. For us, no. It's more like a passion, and I doubt we will get it back. But it's hard to tell, because it's not tangible. You're getting back an image. You're getting back to get the brand more known. You get feedback from pro riders riding your products. Not only the downhill bike, because that I would say is the least important of it, but they train every day on the enduro bike, on the e-bike, and they give you a lot of feedback. They really ride hard those bikes, so you can learn a lot from what is not even seen there. So there's
But why did you start a downhill team and not an e-bike team?
I mean, we just had a really good opportunity to do the downhill team. Basically, I mean, Angel, I've known him a little bit for a while, and he came to us, because they had this opportunity, because we don't run the team. They run the team on their own, and they had this opportunity to run the team, and we were their one option of brand to pick for the team. So it was,
That's a big compliment.
yeah, no, that was really good. That was really good too, that they were really, really interested in doing the team with us. And I think it was a great opportunity. I've always been really involved in downhill. So it's one of those decisions that they're made more with the heart, maybe what it's the best. But I think in the long term, it was a great opportunity to have such a good rider like he is. And also, we will see there's a lot of changes as well in racing, not downhill, in cross country, enduro, and everything this year with Discovery and all this. So I think hopefully we'll get more popular, um, all the mountain bike racing. But yeah, To your point, it didn't appear. We will have a small team that we will announce soon, racing enduro. Also, it was a similar thing. It's not with such a top riders, but that one will help us more to development and finding things. So yes, we will also have it there. But still, like Angel rides almost every day the e-bike, still mixes with enduro, but rides a lot the e-bike. So we still get, maybe you don't get the visibility of like racing where it's like, yeah, it's in a race, but still on the back. But to the point is like, I think for specialized someone like this, maybe YT and maybe the guys from Commensal, they really might get the return back in sales from downhill bikes, Santa Cruz probably as well. But for us, for sure not. We're not going to get it on downhill bikes.
But do they make the sales from the downhill? Do they make the money back from sale of downhill bikes, or do they make the money back from the sale of enduro bikes and other bikes?
I think, I don't know. This you should probably need to ask them, but I think Commensal makes the money back probably almost from downhill bikes. My feeling, like when you see the amount of bikes they have out there, and you see when you go to a bike park, maybe, but still, I think it's a mix of things. I think Santa Cruz just built their own image, was built around their team since 15 years, and the team they had in downhill helped a lot to increase the image. It was the same with Yeti. Yeti in the end switched that image now into enduro, but Yeti's image comes from downhill. It's the same of Intense. Where does Intense come from? It comes from downhill. Of course, now they have Win and Liz, but there's some years in between where they were not doing that much. So,
What are your thoughts on e-bike racing?
honestly, I don't like it because the fact the motor, I mean, I like it, but I don't like a competition based because the motor makes a difference.
But couldn't you say the same in rally or motocross?
Yeah, and in Formula One, and I like Formula One, and I like watching it, but I don't like the fact that you know pretty much who's going to win the world championship before or after the first two races. I think once you go motocross and all this, the difference in motor, they're not that big and still based a lot on the skills of the rider. I think because motocross, because of the roots, whatever, the power doesn't make a difference in motocross, for instance. I think, you can, if you have a good rider, he probably can ride a stock motocross bike with some proper suspension and he will win anyway. And I
But
think
I don't know what percentage of the stages are uphill versus downhill, but you do still have, like, there is still a lot of downhill too.
it's still like this kind of like the world championships, you see people in tight clothes and all this, so it's more like a cross country e-bike thing. The EW series might be a different story, but in the world championship, I think like 1 to 3 were Bosch bikes. Why Bosch bikes has the more powerful motor. So, a Shimano, you probably won't even try to race because, like, if it's like just 200-meter uphill, that guy is going to make 10 seconds or 15 seconds on me. How do I recover when we are all so tight 10 seconds climbing? Because in climbing, the difference is that big. So, and if it's like
That's
a cross
true.
country race with an e bike, then that, and then how you control that your bike is not doing 25.6 and not 20, like, if you change a tire, I don't even know how the regulation goes, honestly, because I haven't looked into it, but I mount whatever tire, then the diameter is a little bit smaller to test, and they test at 25.0. Perfect, you're on the limit. Then for racing, then I change the tire because I guess there's not a limitation of it, or even the pressure. If you're running really low pressure on the right rear tire, the diameter decreases quite a lot. If you ride 1.5, your tire is maybe 1 centimeter less radius than if you ride 3.5 kilos. You lose traction, but speed-wise, that bike is going to be faster because you're in a bigger diameter just because the tire doesn't deflate. So all these things, when it's so tight racing, I think makes a difference because you see it in results. There's certain motors that the guys are either not racing or they're not winning, and so takes a bit the fact that the bike is not a big percentage, like in downhill. Of course, a bike makes a difference, but to a certain point. Like I remember when we raced with Mondraker with Fabian. Varel. He was saying, like, he was riding the Kona before the Mondraker, and he said with the Kona he could win, but he will need to risk so much, but could still win. With Mondraker, the difference was he felt like he could win any race. With the Kona was so extreme that he couldn't take those risks in every race. So at the end, it wasn't not doing maybe that good, but it could go as fast as with the Mondraker. It's just the difference is that with the Mondraker, he he was regularly and more consistent on the fast side. So that I would say is the biggest so difference to me between e-bike and the rest. That the bike starts to make too much of a difference, that it takes a bit the rider side away. And I think it's what is good about bikes compared to MotoGP. MotoGP, you're on a Honda. There's no way you're going to win the World Championship, even with Mar Marquez, that when the bike was almost the best, never was the best, he was winning one-handed. So that's what I see, and that doesn't take the fun away. I'm not saying it's not fun, and racing e-bikes, I think it's fun, and if I would race a discipline from downhill, enduro, cross country, whatever, I'll pick e-bikes. But I don't care if I do third or fourth or fifth. If I were racing as a professional, I would never pick e-bikes.
I was actually signed up for it like 2 years ago, and then COVID hit, and I was going to do the EWSE series, like I guess in the old man's class, and then they kept canceling the races because of the COVID thing. So I haven't got back into it again. But anyway, changing topic again. So like about production. So what do you think it would take to bring more production back to Europe? Because especially as wages are rising in Asia, in China right now, wages are super high. So do you think it's a realistic possibility for any production to return to Europe?
Not as it is right now for carbon. I think for aluminum, it's something that you can automate, yes. For carbon, and I say because we tried, um, I don't see it. I don't see it happening as it is right now. But the technology is evolving. It's getting automated. So in 5, 6.
So why is there one main reason for that?
I mean,
Is it cost?
there's probably two reasons. I think cost is not that anymore, because the wages, you could find countries in Europe where wages are probably cheaper now than in China. So the wage is not the problem. It's just the know-how. On one side, the know-how is in China right now. All the carbon developments are happening there. All those factories have the know-how. So first of all, it needs to be one of those factories that you team up or something to open a factory here. Or it will require quite some years of learning and progressing to keep it, because I even see it in China when a new factory opens, and we've worked sometimes with a customer that tries a new carbon manufacturer, and it's a nightmare. It's a nightmare. There's issues, and ends up going to the old one, and it needs 3-4 years of learning. So first you need that, but I think now it would happen because it's going to be a switch in technology sooner or later to thermoplastic, to more automated process. It's going to happen. How much you automate? Is it 50, 60, 70%? 100% it will never be, I think, but how far you can take it. So I think they're waiting. Once that starts to happen, then it will be easier to switch to European production. So that is one, let's say, the know-how. And the other one, because it's the hand labor, it's so intensive and you need to repeat the process. The Asian culture, where they are really focused on things and they don't mind repeating the same thing over. I think here in Europe, this is not in the culture. Like, it's a different cultural thing where they don't care to repeat the thing, and here we get more bored, or is this is just too tiring to do the thing over and over again. I don't know the reason, but this is something that I've seen and I've discussed with so many people, and so many other people say why it works in China or in Asian countries and doesn't work laying up so well outside on Asian countries. It's just like how repetitive the work is, and I think that's a reason of other things moving there. But I think the number one is just the know-how, that it's not here, and someone needs to build it, and that's a big investment. It means many years that you can just need to invest in the know-how And there are a couple of companies doing it. There's one in Portugal. There's these guys from doing um, the thermoplastic frames. I don't remember now the name, but so that it's coming, but it's still so slow. Our cross country bike is gonna be done in Germany but still, I compare how easy it is to develop a bike in Asia versus how hard it is here. And it's like it's not really worth it because you pissed everyone. It takes so long. You're delaying the product. People are waiting for the product but doesn't deliver. The quality control is not in place. Those are really a lot of years of learning in Asia. So that's to me the hardest part, and it will happen eventually, I think, but it requires a huge commitment. And I think now Asia is just so easy, even if prices go up, and they control the production. So it's not like you're, let's say, specialized and you go to Europe and you have suddenly an advantage. No one has an advantage. So if Asia is getting more expensive, it's getting expensive for everyone, and everyone has the same issue. So all prices rise at the same time. If you in the end you have Fox, SRAM, and pretty much not many more options. So if those costs rise, they rise for everyone because everyone is either SRAM, Fox, Shimano. So when those rise, the downside is for every single brand on the market. So there's not a brand having a big advantage. So I think this is the thing. If you were competing with Europe and suddenly Europe starts becoming cheaper or more competitive, more quality, you would see switching. But as this doesn't happen, no one needs to be pushed to make that change.
So you're running a design studio, a bike brand. You still seem to get a lot of time in the saddle. You were competing in the Rally Dakar. You say you want to do it again next year. How do you find balance in your life with so much going on? Are there some habits you've picked up or learned along the way that help you stay on top of everything?
Balance. I mean, I would say I don't have much balance, if you ask, to all my ex-girlfriends.
You don't have much balance.
No, I mean, it seems to it, but yeah, I still work between 60 to 80 hours a week easily. So I mean, still, it's something I've been trying to change, but I don't have the biggest balance, and I know it's important, but it depends on the person. I enjoy what I do, So sometimes I'd rather stay working than go on a motocross ride or on a bike ride. So I like it that much. Of course, there's so many things I don't like about it, but for me, it's extreme balance. Let's say I go from being in the office to go to race a rally. Like last year when I did Abu Dhabi, the first rally I did in my life, I didn't even know. I never saw a road book until I arrived there. So it's like, but I didn't have time to train. And it's people, what the hell are you doing? Are you crazy? And so, but but I wanted to do that. So I go to
You're a firm believer in just diving into
yeah.
things.
But,
I can
but I
see.
go from the work to, like, for me the balance is that I can make, because of how lucky I've been with having this job, and I'm having a good life. I'm making good money. That's a positive. But on the other hand, I have very little free time, and I can ride during the week. If I ride, I do 1 hour. I try to ride every day because kind of like go to the psychologist to go on the bike.
It's like the meditation.
Yeah. But that's it. Then I come back from the ride, I get a shower, I keep working, have something for dinner, and I work again, and I go to bed. So, but that to me is enough. But on the other hand, like, I could live this experience like doing Dakar that very, very few people, or many people, dream about it, and very, very few people can really go to it. So for me, that's worth all the hard work because I can make these dreams come true. I can go to the Abu Dhabi race, and then maybe next year or in 2 years, who knows what that dream will be. And I can accomplish some dreams that other people can only really dream about it. But I'm giving up, yeah, other things, working a lot, and maybe not watching TV that much. But at the end of the day, maybe, watching TV 2 hours a day or zero doesn't make a difference for me, versus other things. So I cannot give you a speech like, life work balance is magic, and, I'm balancing. No, I'm balancing terribly bad. but in a very extreme, nice way. I don't travel, but when I travel, do really nice trips where I get to experience. I really have a big love for Africa, so I've been able to do quite a few safaris where the last ones I didn't even bring my phone or anything. I was like nothing connected to the world, no phone, no computer. 15 days,
Digital detox.
nothing, and it's amazing. And and doing a safari, not everyone can do a safari. Unfortunately, they're expensive, um, but it's one of those things that to me, I'd rather have one nice trip a year than 10 not so nice ones, or and the next one maybe, I don't know, whatever. Always I want one day to see a volcano from up close, and who knows where you need to go, and maybe it's not easy or whatever. So it's one of those things, and maybe tomorrow there's another volcano going on somewhere, and I can have the advantage that tomorrow I disappear without explaining anything to anyone, to go and see this volcano. This is to me what balances all this. But I understand that for many people, and I had these issues with when I had my partners, that they don't see it like that. They want to have a balance every day of the week. I can balance once a month for my whole hard working. So, but it's just the way I am. I guess when I used to race, also was like racing, studying, and it was no free time for anything. The free time was racing, but it still was an obligation because I had to train every day. And one is riding for fun, and one is going riding to suffer, because when you train, you're suffering. So I don't know. For me, it works really well, and I'm happy with it, because I see all the value in the freedom I have to, like, if tomorrow I say, hey, tomorrow I want to go somewhere, I can go. I cannot do it every week. It's clear, because I need to still be here. But if tomorrow I want to go to Australia, I need to explain to anyone. It's like, bye bye everyone, and go to Australia. I'll see you in 2 weeks.
So you said that Dirt magazine was kind of your road into bikes. What book or books changed your life?
Honestly, I don't read at all. I've read when I go on holidays. I take a couple of
It sounds
books.
like you don't have time anyway,
No,
actually.
no. I kind of watch things like more like watch some documentaries. I've read a couple of books, but I would say they haven't changed. I think I've done it a bit the hard way, where I've been learning things. And maybe, yeah, no, okay. There's one book that actually made a big change in me. And actually, I read it like many, many, many years ago. My parents gave it to me, and it's called, what would be the translation? The Good Luck. It will be the translation. So you have, it's talking like, you know you kind of like build your luck. Like, if you do the right things, you're going to be lucky at the end. And the whole book was about this philosophy that, you can complain that you're unlucky, but what are you doing to change your luck? Just complaining that you're unlucky. And it's clear that it's always lucky and unlucky things, why this happened, why I had this, and you cannot control everything in your life. But the whole point of the book is to make you understand that, when something bad happens, if you do nothing, that's not going to change, and it's going to keep. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. This is a silly example, but I have a flat tire because there's a spike there in the, is a something in the floor, that every day I go through it, and I'm having every day a flat tire there. Okay, if you don't change anything in your life, every day you're gonna get a flat tire. Just go on the side. It's a silly example, but for me, this also gave me huge motivation, that every time that something bad happens, bad in different ways, in from in the business, that you lose a customer, that you made a mistake on a project, how that has motivated me to make it better, to improve it. Okay, we lost this customer. We're gonna get now another one. We're gonna get two more. We're gonna show that we can do it, because we've been said that we cannot do, or we didn't have the skills to do that. So that to me came from that book, and that gave me a lot of motivation always. Like, okay, this happened. Like, I crashed from Dakar. And honestly, I've been quite positive all the time. I've never been like sad, oh, this happened. I mean, of course, the first 2 days it was tough. I was like, oh, I'm not gonna do this. Super dangerous. What if I died, or I could have died there? But after a couple days, that's what makes you happy. And I want to finish Dakar, and I will go next year, and hopefully I finish it. Um, but on the other hand, it's like we talk to people and they see it from the outside. It's like, is it worth it? Is it worth to maybe again go through this, or to lose one arm, or to even die? Um, it is. It's not. It's what gives me the motivation.
The Roman philosopher Seneca said that luck is what happens when preparation meets opportunity.
Yeah. So I guess that book. It tells you a lot about it. So for me, that was probably the book that opened me. But yeah, I'm not a big reader, honestly. I like books that have pictures and things, to like photography, architecture, like easy ones, like where you can like disconnect.
Okay, so final question. What is the meaning of life according to Cesar Rojo?
I mean, what is the meaning of life? Huh?
Or is the one?
What is the meaning? I mean,
Start with a light question. Ending with a
yeah,
light question.
that to me, I've never really, I'm never think too deep. I can tell you like this. So what is my meaning in world of this? But if you tell me like what keeps motivating me to keep doing things, and like what I would wish to do, if you ask me like, hey, make a wish, um, be able to keep doing what I'm doing. It's what makes me happy, because I still feel I have big control of my life. I can still make my own decisions. I'm not forced. I mean, you're forced to things because obviously it sounds like everything I do is beautiful. No, I have a lot of shit that goes on in work, and it's more crappy things than good things. But I know all the crap goes with the good, so you cannot have the good without the bad. They all come together. It's a package. So
The rough with the smooth.
yeah. So I for me it's just trying to keep making enjoying. Just like my wish is to be able to still enjoy life as I've been doing now, and with this extreme balance. I love this. I love to go from being in the office to like, okay, yeah, I'm going to Dakar this year. It's like, but you're not training enough, this and that. Yes, of course, but I don't have the time, because I have this. But if I wouldn't have this, I wouldn't be able to do the other thing. I mean, there's people that maybe have better balance or whatever. But yeah,
Master of your own destiny, it sounds like.
yeah, there you go.
So Cesar, thank you so much for coming on. I've heard that designers are being replaced by AI. So basically I'm branching out into this podcasting thing a little bit in case the design thing doesn't work out. But this is a second episode. So yeah, it was great to chat to you, chat with you. And yeah, good luck with everything. And I will
Thanks a
keep
lot.
following you on your channels.
Yeah, take care, and yeah, I'll see
Thank
you
you,
soon.
man.
Thanks.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
Bye.